You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. Dave, you're back. I'm happy you're back. I miss you when you're gone. You miss Scott Merkin, though.
I know. I miss Scott Merkin. I was so sick. It's whatever is going around this January is nasty. Cold, flu, coronavirus. What's the one? Wuhan?
The Wuhan flu. I like the Wuhan flu. It sounds close to the Wu-Tang Clan, so I've been going with the Wuhan flu.
But being a musician, there's actually a brand of cymbal called Wuhan.
There you go. See? That's what I'm leaning
I didn't
towards.
have that, by the way. I just had a regular cold, but even the colds that are going around are lasting for 2.5, 3 weeks.
They shut down St. Barnabas on the south side for a day because half the school was sick with the flu or something like that. It was all over the news.
Yeah, you were telling me that off the air.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, but let's move on from that. We don't know how much time we have on this earth. The question I wanted to ask you today, if you went out and told yourself, I want to get a new White Sox jersey, and I'm talking authentic, the big investment, the several $100s, that jersey. I'm curious, who would be your top 3 guys you'd be thinking about putting on a jersey? Because to me, it's a big investment, and it's something I want the guy to be good. I want to feel like he's going to be on the team for a while. I want to be proud wearing it. I want people to be like, yeah, when they see, you see what I'm saying? Like,
so we're talking about it's got to be a guy who's actually on the team now. Like, we're not talking about a Sox player.
No, I'm not saying go out and get yourself a Greg Luzinski. I'm talking about who's currently on the team.
Well, I just had to clarify that.
All right, we don't need a Lamar Hoyt. I'm just saying
what's wrong with a Lamar Hoyt jersey?
I dig a Lamar Hoyt.
What's wrong with my Greg Luzinski jersey?
Me saying Lamar Hoyt out loud in jersey form makes me want to go get one right now. But what I'm talking about is, like, of the 3, if you could pick 3 guys, and I will do it like this, on the current 40-man roster. 40-man, so if it's somebody that you think might be coming up, you can even do that as well. But who would be the 3 guys that right now off the top of your head, you're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, like, these guys, I would go spend the money, I would buy the jersey, I would be excited about it?
Pretty well, 2 of them are easy.
Okay, well, let's start with the 2 easy ones.
The 2 of them to me are obvious, being Moncada and Abreu. Those to me are the 2 obvious.
See, I'm a Moncada as well.
Yeah.
But I don't have Abreu in my top 3.
Moncada, Abreu.
Because everybody's got an Abreu.
I know, but
And I think Moncada is an MVP candidate. I went out and made a deal in my fantasy baseball dynasty league this past weekend, and I probably gave up way too much, but I was like, you want Moncada, MVP type season this year. That's how I feel about him this year. I remember I was the guy last year that was like, he's going to do it. Remember, it was like 2 summers ago. Everybody's like, he sucks. He's never going to be any good. I'm like, this guy is going to come out in his second full season and be great. I said it. You can go back. You can find it in the podcast. I stand by it. It's one of my great predictions that offsets me saying that Tim Anderson stunk. So I was wrong about TA. I was right about Yohan Moncada. So I still think the sky's the limit for the guy. So he's my guy. I would put him on a jersey as well.
That 3rd guy I could easily go Keuchel.
Really? You go with the Keuchel? I guess so. I mean, he's going to be here for a little while.
Yeah, I guess.
Fairly good pitcher.
I guess I'll do that.
It's a new guy.
I guess I'll do that.
You're hip because you got Dallas Keuchel.
I'm not gonna grow a beard, but I'll get the jersey.
It's a complete opposite of you because you have no hair anywhere on your body.
No beard.
Right, exactly. So it would be a strange look to have a Keuchel that's just bald like a hairless cat walking around in a Keuchel jersey, but I could see that. I could see that. Okay, so Keuchel, Abreu, and Moncada.
I guess to me, Yasmani and Keuchel are interchangeable. I'm having trouble between.
You're thinking
those
like
2.
Getting a new guy.
I'm having trouble between those 2. Yeah.
You're thinking. See me, I've fallen in love with the newer guys or the guys that came up in our system. Like, give me a Jimenez.
Okay.
Give me a Giolito. Give me a Moncada.
Okay.
Like, those are the ones that I'm sitting there saying that's what I want. I would go with a Luis Robert. I would actually have it say La Pantera on the back of it. Right?
Nice.
I could, like, his players weekend jersey that says La Pantera will be the hottest selling thing on the South Side when it becomes available. people are already digging the nickname and the guy hasn't taken his first swing. Imagine if he comes up and he starts wrecking baseballs like he was doing it in AAA and AA and single A last year. He's a Rookie of the Year candidate. He's one of those guys that if you're sitting down right now, I'm sure Vegas is trying to figure out the odds for Rookie of the Year. He's going to be up there towards the top. And if he actually comes out and takes baseball by storm, which is a possibility in which we're all hoping for, but if it doesn't happen, I'll accept it because sometimes taking that jump from AAA to the majors, you need a year. But if he comes out and takes baseball by storm, that player's weekend jersey that says La Pantera, I don't care how ugly Major League Baseball makes that jersey. And they try every year to make it the ugliest jersey they can produce. It will sell like hotcakes.
When it comes to my jerseys, I go with the legacy players. I go with the legends. Give me...
You're like, Abreu's been so good, I want to have Abreu because he's going to be
No,
there.
but I'm talking if I'm going to actually go out and buy myself a jersey, like right now today, give me a Burley or a Guillen or a Frank Thomas or somebody like that. Like, I'm just more interested in wearing the legends of White Sox past. That's just kind of... I'm the same way with my Blackhawks jerseys. Like, I had this Blackhawks jersey that I've had unnumbered for a very long time, and it was almost kind of like I was waiting for Hossa to retire before I get his... I knew I was going to get Hossa.
Why would you just get it while he was playing? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know, man.
Your thing is, like, I need to make sure...
There's a superstition with me, Chris. Like, there's
if I get the jersey, like, something bad will happen?
Yeah.
He'll break his leg, and then while he's in the hospital, somebody will go over to pick up his clothes, and they'll find 2 dead hookers in the closet. Like, you're afraid of, like, the worst-case scenario.
Well, he's not Theo Fleury.
You're afraid something terrible is going to happen, is what you're saying.
There's a superstition with me, yes, when it comes to jerseys. When I invest that much money in a jersey, because you're talking about $200-$300 now.
Right.
I'm very superstitious about it.
All right.
But that's just kind of... If I was going to go with any jersey, I just mentioned the 3. I mean, give me Burley, give me Guillen, give me Thomas, those guys. But if we're talking new players, then there you go. You got my list. You got Abreu, Moncada, and I'm not sure between Keuchel and Grandal. Here's the thing about this year and the prediction of 85 wins versus winning all these games. You still have a very young team here, and young teams are going to go through ups and downs, and we've seen young teams have a very hard time getting out of the doldrums when they're in a down point. We had talked about this with Renteria, we mentioned it last year. Okay, how good is this guy at getting these guys, these young players, his young team out of a funk? That, I think, is something to really watch for this year.
Well, it's going to be such a weird start to the season. If you look at the opening of the White Sox and who they're going to be playing to start things off, they're going to start at home against the Royals. And again, we'll be with our sponsors this season, Cork and Carry at the Park, I believe on the Saturday of the 28th. I'll have that firmed up and perfectly set in stone for you next week.
Very excited.
And we'll be out there, and I'm going on the 26th to opening day, so you'll see me lingering around the ballpark that day as well. But that opening weekend at home against the Royals, then you're going to go to the Indians, who everybody sits there and says, well, they're done, but they never actually traded Francisco Lindor yet. And it doesn't seem like it's happening. They moved on from Corey Kluber, but they have young pitching. The idea that all of a sudden they're a pushover is crazy. They're not.
No, they're not.
And then you're going to go to Boston, and even though Boston's going to move on from Mookie Betts, they're going to be a formidable team. So there's nothing easy at the beginning of the season for you, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay? There's nothing easy. Then you get this crappy Mariners team at home. They should just beat the bejesus out of them. It's crazy, though. It's 3-day games. They're playing it's like being at Wrigley for 3 days. 3 1-10 starts Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Weird. What are they doing? That's not even on a weekend. What are they doing?
Are they repairing the lights? It's really strange. Like, if you look at it, at least according to the schedule right now, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, they're playing all of their games with 1-10 starts in April. Maybe it's
they're thinking, well, it's April. We still might have crappy weather. We'll probably have
Let's play in the sun.
We'll have significantly less crappy weather during the day. Maybe it's like, well, we got Seattle in here, and they always have crappy weather, so let's make them feel at home. I don't know.
Maybe it's play in the sun, so it's not so cold. I mean, I don't know what the reason. It's such a weird thing.
But they don't make that schedule. MLB does.
Right. Well, again, it's strange. It's kind of an odd setup to when you look at their games. And then they're going to get the Twins coming into town early. And that one's got 2 day starts as well. It's Saturday during the day and Sunday Sunday's always during the day, but the Saturday game is a day game as well. And then you're going to get the Royals. And then you got the Rangers. The Rangers are going to have a good lineup. Then you come back to the Royals. A lot of Royals. You better be ready to beat up on the Royals.
In the first half.
Beat up on the Royals in the first half. You're going to play the Royals 9 times in the first month. I want 7 wins. I want to sweep in 2 out of 3. That's what I want. I want 7 wins in that one.
You should have that, right? Absolutely.
I want 7 wins. And then you're going to go out to the West Coast and you're going to have to face the Angels and you're going to get an interleague thing with the Rockies, who are just going to be a weird team this year. Their general manager is predicting 94 wins, but it doesn't seem like they did very much in the offseason. So it'll be interesting to see like what's going on.
They're doing an interleague series that early in the year.
I want to see Eloy and Luis Robert and Jose Abreu and Encarnacion. I want to see this powerful lineup hitting in the thin air of Colorado at the very end of the month. That's how your month starts off. There's a lot of teams you can roll. Like Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are rollover team days in April. You're going to have the Mariners on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Royals on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Royals on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So every time we sit down to record this show, we should be in the midst of rolling a team in a series. That's how that's what I want. Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to see you're going to see Chris's mojo just at an all-time high because we're in the middle of beating a crappy team.
Maybe the schedule is set up so Sox in the Basement would be more positive. Like, let's put all of our crappy games that we got. We're gonna beat teams up like right when these guys are recording, so they're more positive this year.
Well, I've already put out the theory that news always breaks with this team seemingly late on a Wednesday, like right after our podcast comes out.
So here's the thing: I don't see any reason why you should be below 500.
No,
when you start the season.
No,
slow start for you is if you're right around 500. If you're a game or two above it, that's a slow start for your team. But the schedule's not too terrible. It'll just be interesting to see how things come together. You know, what are your pitchers like when they get out there? Is Lucas Giolito still Lucas Giolito?
Is Ronaldo Lopez going to do
any better?
Anything? Yes.
Is there something that's better with him? Which, again, I just keep getting the feeling this team is biding its time until Michael Kopech shows up and takes his spot in the rotation. Alex Keuchel's going to eat in April against some of these teams. He's going to eat. He's going to look really good. And then when they get into May, we're going to run right into the Orioles. Thank you. That's going to be a fun first weekend in May.
Yeah, but you know what, though? The Orioles always give the Sox trouble, even when the Orioles are bad. I don't want to hear that anymore.
I want to be good now. At this point, I don't want to hear the habitually. Remember when we couldn't win a game on the West Coast? You knew you were good in 05 when you went to the West Coast and beat up on on the Angels the whole year, right?
Against Oakland? Yeah. It's ridiculous that they can't beat Oakland.
But you knew they were good in 05 when they went out there and had their way with those teams.
Yeah.
That's when you knew it. So we can't always sit there and say, well, these teams always beat us. I'm done with that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
I want to, you're going to end up with the Rays after that. You're going to go to San Francisco and go to San Diego. In San Diego. That's going to be just an ick week. They better be doing well when they get to that week. They better be doing well. They get to that week and they're not doing well. That's when the honeymoon of the beginning of the season is over.
What week is this now?
This is going to be the 11th, 12th, and 13th, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Smack dab in the middle of when we'll be recording a Sox in the Basement.
In April?
In May.
Oh, we're into May now.
I'm not going to go through the whole season. I promise. I just wanted to look at the start of everything. When you look at the start of everything and you look at what's going on with this team, they have a mixture of teams that are going to be good, that are going to be very challenging series for them, where those teams are going to be favored to take 2 out of 3 from the Sox. And then the Sox are going to run into the next series and they should take 2 out of 3 or even sweep some weak team.
Right.
It'll really say a lot about how Ricky Renteria gets his guys to move on from losses to pick up the wins they should be getting as they're growing and they're brand new coming out of the gate. I think that's the point that I'm trying to get here by reading through the beginning of the schedule. It's really going to say a lot about Ricky. If they have a rough series, let's say, and they come into a cupcake right afterwards, Ricky's going to have to be the guy that sits there and tells them, just shake that one off, come back. Remember Guillen used to do that all the time.
Yes.
Music was in the clubhouse, win or loss, because it was a long season. Ricky's going to have to be, have to be able to handle those kind of things. When they go on the road for 3 games against the Red Sox early in the season, they're going to go Indians, Red Sox at the very beginning.
Right, that's tough.
They're going on the road to Cleveland and Boston after starting at home for 3 against Kansas City. Ricky's got to make sure the team feels good when they get home against the Mariners for those 3-day games. He's going to have to watch his young players who are going to have just made it into the majors and are going to be done for the day at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and have the city waiting for them for those days. Like, there's a lot to do at the beginning of this season to make sure your team is on point.
Right.
I would think he seems like he's at least a pretty smart guy. Like, in conversations and seeing how he talks to the media and how he seems to know about the distractions his players have, you would think he's going to look at that schedule and go, oh, we're going to have to find some team activities. Guys are going to sit around the night and tell ghost stories, all the rookies. I don't want you going out into the city on, Tuesday the 7th.
Bingo night.
We're going to have curfews or something like that.
Ricky seems to me to be very good in handling the young players. I mean, I've noticed this. I feel pretty good that he's gonna keep everything on the straight and narrow, and I feel good that he's going to be able to keep these guys' confidence up if they have a bad series or a bad week or whatever. We talked about a lot of questionable in-game decisions that he's made, but when it comes to the psychology of his young players, I'm thinking he's spot on with it. I think he knows what's going on, and I think he knows how to handle his young team. I mean, don't you think?
Him with players doesn't concern me as much as him with in-game decisions.
Right.
Like if it was a video game and you could pick your manager and there was a list of different managers and they would have different attributes that they were good at and bad at, he'd be ranked very high with dealing with his players.
Right.
His fault or his fear in a video game right now, and I'm not saying it's true because we don't know what he's like with a good team yet. But right now, if the video game came out at this moment, his in-game decision-making would be low. The game would rank other managers higher who have proven that they can make a difference in games. And I hate that adage that the manager has nothing to do with the wins and losses. Like, managers don't matter. Managers matter. Trust me. Managers are going to matter when a backup catcher up on the north side proves that he wasn't as smart as the really good manager that they got rid of for no reason this year. Managers will matter.
Managers
okay? Managers matter. I don't care how cute he is and his cutesy little nickname. It's going to matter, trust me. In June, it'll matter.
And coaching staffs matter.
Right.
We would hear it for years about how, this guy's job doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. All that is just all that. When you hear that from people, that is people that are trying to deflect criticism from their higher ups to the players. Well, remember, that is what you're getting.
Remember Greg Walker?
Yes.
And
that's what I'm talking about.
He mattered
Chris.
as a hitting coach. He mattered in 05 as our hitting coach because for some reason in 05 he had this philosophy of we're just going to wear down people. Take pitches. And it was like weird. I always said it that after the first pitch home run by Konerko in game 2 of the World Series.
Right.
And a few other moments where guys jumped on first pitch, he slowly, not instantly, but slowly got away from the wear people down and make pitchers throw a ton of pitches. And it went away.
Yes, it did.
And so it was the same guy, but his philosophy and what he was getting through to his team wasn't working anymore. And then people are saying, well, it doesn't matter because you see how it was good then it was. But there was a difference in how things were going with the team. And I don't know if he would ever sit down and admit that later on now that he's more removed from it. But that was always my observation was happening. Coaches make a difference.
We always heard during that era, two things. That Coop, the work that he did, always mattered. And because you saw positive results. But then the work, whatever Greg Walker was doing, then you'd have, when you see all these negative results, you'd hear coaches don't matter. Look,
exactly.
I don't buy it.
Exactly.
When you hear that, that is just somebody, like I said, that is just somebody trying to take the heat off of their bosses, off of their higher ups. That is somebody who, works for the White Sox or who has close ties with the White Sox and doesn't want to get blackballed. they're trying to deflect, and they're using the old, but players got to play.
Right. If coaching didn't matter, you wouldn't have had so many additions to the minor league coaching department.
Correct.
We've already talked to one on this show recently. Player development, changes to the hitting coaching staff up at the major league level this year. It matters.
Yes.
And so if for some reason he all of a sudden is making bad in-game decisions and you're going to be able to see him, it'll matter. Like I said, his attribute is dealing with his players. His good attributes seem to be that he keeps everybody on an even keel. He's built it seems like a really good clubhouse. You go to Sox Fest, you see how they're all interacting with each other. You see how they...
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It seems like he has put together a really good clubhouse. Every single thing about Ricky Renteria's managing style has been good, but except we've yet to see in-game him make a difference. I've seen negatives in-game, but that's always been explained by, we only have like 4 or 5 actual guys on this roster that are major league level,
right, exactly.
And most of this team isn't here. We're trying to figure out what guys can do. Well, this year, I don't want to see what guys can do.
Well, and that leads me to my next question, which is, how short is the leash? Like,
he'll get the whole year.
If he'll get the whole year,
he'll get the whole year.
Okay,
he'll get the whole year.
All right,
he'll get the whole year. And the frightening thing is that they could end up winning 75 games, and they might try to explain to you why he needs another year.
Okay,
I that's what frightens me the most. I would think that they wouldn't do that, though. I think that the White Sox have done way too much, and the front office has done way too much, that if it isn't good, then they'll move on.
If this season comes out and is all of a sudden a disaster,
right. He needs
by June.
He needs to be over 500. He needs to finish over 500 to keep his job.
Right.
He needs to. Like I keep saying 85 wins. If a guy ends up with 83, he's not losing his job.
No, okay? But if you're at 70, if you're at 75,
right,
with this lineup,
no, and that's the thing. He needs to be over 500, and if he does that, he'll keep his job. I think he'll actually do it. I think he'll actually be over 500. I think he'll keep his job. I think he'll do some things every once in a while that'll still be maddening to us.
Well, all managers do,
but all managers will drive you nuts. And
Ozzy used to drive me nuts every Sunday whenever I'd go to whenever I'd go to the games on Sunday, because that was my only day off, and I'd come out there and I'd get these weird Ozzy lineups, and of course they'd lose.
The crazy Ozzy lineup.
We used
the
to call
Sunday
it the crazy
Ozzy
lineup. Yeah.
It
used to drive me nuts, Chris.
Like that scene in The Hunt for Red October, where they yell, Crazy Ivan! Right, yeah. They should have found a way to doctor that and have it pop up on Sunday right before they announced the lineups. And here are the White Sox lineups, and the scene pops up, Crazy Ozzy! Like that'd have been brilliant.
You'd have like Jermaine Dye leading off. You'd have like Canerico and AJ on the bench.
People paid the same amount of money for that game that they paid for the game the day before, and he just
you'd have like Willie Harris hitting cleanup. I mean,
he's hitting cleanup and playing first base.
Right?
And you're like, what? What is Ozzy doing?
You think we're kidding?
Go back and look at old lineups from 05 on Sundays.
Or 06. 06 was when it got really bad.
06 he thought he was a genius, so then he really got crazy. And remember, we missed the postseason by just a couple games. So we laugh about it, but crazy Ozzy lineups.
It was like 5 games, yeah.
He made a difference. You see? I mean, like managers make a difference.
Yes.
Managers and their decisions make a difference.
And coaches
make a difference.
Now, again, you've said this. I've been thinking about this as we've been talking. Have we seen Ricky, not just obviously with the Sox, but I don't think we've seen Ricky manage
a good team.
An actual team. No.
We've never seen it happen, so we don't know what it is. And so I've tried my best to give him the benefit of the doubt, because he's always been the manager that's there while a team is building.
Right.
It's the first time. But I also feel like when we hear things like he wanted Madrigal and he wanted Robert, that he was making it known, it sounds like, within the organization last year that he wanted them up.
Right.
When you see how he went after Lopez, not only on the mound in his last start.
No, but in the press.
But in the press in an interview afterwards on NBC Sports that when they were just wrapping up what was going on with the season. And the question was not a leading question. He just got asked about him and he went on.
No, he was aggravated.
He was like, got to come to the ballpark, thinking about baseball, can't be thinking about your girlfriend, your rent, your this, your car. And I'm like, man, he's really angry.
He was mad.
Like, he was mad. Like, this young man's got to get his head on straight. Like, because Ricky knows just what we just said. He knows his team didn't go through this whole thing for him to come in under 500 or not show that he can manage
right,
and get fired.
Right.
Here's a guy who thought he was going to be with the Cubs on the road to winning their first World Series in 100 and whatever years. And then he comes to the White Sox and goes through this rebuild. If you don't think Ricky Renteria every day is sitting down going, what's my lineup? Like, I think it's funny. White Sox Twitter are all trying to guess, like, what the lineup should be. Guess what, guys? Ricky's got one idea, and if it ain't working after 3 days, he's got a couple backups written in a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky wants to win. There's no doubt in my mind Ricky Renteria is going to do every possible thing that he can to win. So knowing that, if they're not, or he's making bad decisions, you'll know right away. Does he get picked up by emotion? Does he have a bad philosophy? Are we going to go back to the stupid bunts? I mean, look at that lineup. If you get a pitcher that comes out and struggles, or you have a pitcher on the mound that you know is going to give up 5 runs, and you're bunting in the second inning.
If you got Edwin Encarnacion bunting.
Right, if you're bunting in the second inning and you're losing games,
right,
people will start yelling about it. So he's like the biggest story to me. Everybody looks and they go, okay, well, I want to see what Robert's going to do, and when is Madrigal going to get up, and what's going on with Kopech, and you go through all these different iterations of what are the big stories for the year. Ricky Renteria is the biggest story on the White Sox this year. No matter what anybody tells you, Ricky Renteria is the biggest story on the White Sox this year, unless there's massive regression, and Yoan Moncada goes back to hitting 224, and Tim Anderson goes back to hitting 246, and Jose Abreu breaks his leg, and Juan Encarnacion is, he has a car accident. Like, I mean, if it's like the dark cloud of hell that comes over the White Sox and wipes out the team, that's the only way Ricky's not the number one story.
Hey, listen, there are many White Sox fans who live in fear of that. So don't be,
I'm just saying.
Don't be giving people anxiety.
That I'm trying to make the point.
Right.
That's the only way that Ricky Renteria is not the main story. He's the number one thing you're looking at. You're not looking at the front office anymore. Are they going to make moves? They proved you they're going to make moves. There are the doubters out there that'll sit there and say they won't make moves. And yeah, they're going to tick us off at some point when they should have spent the money on somebody and they don't do it. Or they make a trade that doesn't make any sense. They're not infallible. But they've at least shown they're willing to go do something. That storyline is not as big of a deal anymore. The storyline of the young guys coming up is not as big of a deal as Renteria.
The story has shifted now.
The story has shifted to Ricky Renteria. 2020 is the story of Ricky Renteria.
Yeah.
And that's how I want it to be. If you're a team, if you're Rick Hahn, you want it to be the story of Ricky Renteria. Because you don't want any pressure on these young players. The pressure's on him.
No, and if you're Rick Hahn,
he wants it on him.
And if you're Rick Hahn, you've done what you're supposed to do.
Right.
You've done what you're supposed to do. You've gone out, you've proven that you can spend the money and put a major league roster out on that field. And you're right, you don't want to have undue pressure on the kids. So yeah, it is.
And
it's about Ricky.
The subset story to the Ricky Renteria story is the Don Cooper story.
There's a Don Cooper story?
No, I think that because here's the thing. Ricky was able to change his hitting coach. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But we've always known that Coop is always there. And I'm not saying that Coop is the wrong guy. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Coop is the wrong guy. But what will happen if there's pitching woes? If they're having problems and it's June and Ricky knows his job's on the line, what happens? That's the secondary story that I'm watching this year. I don't want these things to happen. Like, I want it to be Ricky Renteria comes out. I want him to go gangbusters. I want him to be 20 games over 500 at the All-Star break. Please, don't get me wrong. I want all these things. But as you look at what the storylines are, Ricky's the number one story, and then this little subset story, if things go wrong, does anything get blamed on the pitching? And does Ricky start to blame it on the pitching because he didn't pick the pitching coach?
Well, then you know what it's going to be.
And he knows he's going to be on the way out the door, so he has to save himself.
Then you know what it's going to be. It's going to be this same old story where we heap all this praise on Cooper when he does good things, but then when the pitching staff is bad, we don't hold Cooper accountable. Then you get the whole line of, players got to play, coaches don't matter, blah, 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 blah. Are we going to see that again?
Well, he did make some admissions at SoxFest that he's looking at numbers now and he's paying more attention to those things. And it seems like they're trying to surround him with other people that'll walk up to him and say, hey, these are important things you need to know. And maybe he's coming around though.
Because you're talking the sabermetrics.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Coop also has to realize that it can only go on so far. There is way too much talent now standing out there pitching.
Right.
And there's a veteran. I'm sorry, there's two veterans. There's Gio Gonzalez and Dallas Keuchel.
Correct.
That if for some reason the pitching coach is the problem or they think something's weird's going on, you watch, it'll be out in the press.
Interesting.
So I mean, this is there's not a bunch of kids out there anymore. I guess that's the underlying thing. There are young kids out there, but there's a real team now that is formed and you have some real players. I mean, Grandal is a real veteran, all-star, high-end player.
Who knows pitching.
Right.
Who knows
Keuchel
pitching.
is a high-end veteran pitcher. Gonzalez is in his mid-30s and has had success. So at this point, even though there's kids around, trust me, if there's something not right in the coaching levels at some point, it will come out this year. So I think the most fascinating story is going to be, it's all Ricky. If everything goes well, it's all Ricky. If things go bad, where does it trickle off to? And that's really the story of the 2020 season.
Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement.
Socks in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always on socksinthebasement.com.